Okay, hi, this is Elliot Fishman, and we just had the usual hiccup. So we went on to, I went to do the Facebook Live, and it said that I was using my camera didn't work on this version. So it ends up Facebook is updating everything. They didn't tell anybody, and I didn't upgrade anything because I wasn't supposed to, and whatever it is. But then they said you want to use the old version, and you pressed yes. And so fortunately, this old version works, quote unquote, fine. So. Um, Hopefully you all can see me. And I'd like to tell everybody today is Thursday, May 14th. And I know it's sometimes hard to remember it's Thursday, May 14th. I did comb my hair and wash my hair and put it back. With everything, it seems like Monday, Thursday, and Saturday are all the same thing. And I think that everyone is getting by. I think we're getting a little bit busier in the hospital and the outpatient centers. I think depending where you are, things are reopening. I know in Maryland, a lot of things are reopening. I got a email from the person who cuts my hair that this salon, basically the barbershop I go to, is reopening. The sheet was not ready to start cutting hair. So I can get somebody else, but I'll wait. I have the same person cutting my hair for about 30 years, so I can wait another few weeks or something like that. But we had a talk a few weeks ago where we spoke about with the COVID-19 that many things have changed now short term, but some of those things will go back to the way they were pre-COVID and other things will not. And I think one of the things I think that probably will change a lot will be in radiology education. And that was the topic for today, looking at post-COVID, what's going to happen with medical education. So I think if you look at CME, and we'll just focus on CME, over the last bunch of years, as groups have gotten bigger and money has gotten tighter, particularly the way groups do things, there's been a push away from classic CME meetings. Some of the big societies, RSNA has seen pretty dramatic drops in numbers. Some other meetings have done okay, the GI Society, for example, Thoracic Society. But others, the cardiac societies, have seen numbers, NASCI, going down. And also, I've spoken at many meetings, which I've done many times. LA Radiologic, which is one of the classic meetings, was one of the first meetings I went to as an attendee way back when I started my residence, my faculty positions. It was at Beverly Hills Hotel, very fancy place. And they had well over 1,000 people. And I spoke there a couple of years ago, and there was 150 people. And it was in Pasadena. And I think this year was less people, in fact. So I think a lot, and I've spoken at some meetings where I went to the same meeting over many years, and it was 300 people year after year. And then I was speaking to 40 people. And even the Hopkins courses, where we do better than most, we've been getting 100 people. But to be quite frank, we used to get 250, 270 people. So I think, and I noticed this a number of years ago, I always used to speak to Carlita Kearney, who ran a CME office, that it seemed to me the people who came to meetings were getting older because it was the people who went to meetings on site that liked doing that always did that. And I was always concerned that I didn't see people 5 to 10 years out from their residency attending meetings. Now, I think people, for a number of reasons, did not like going away. Or more importantly, I think it was a millennial thing in part, where people did not like mixing business and pleasure. Remember, the classic meeting thing was that you would go with your kids, you go to Disney, one of the spouses would watch the kids, you go to the meeting and everything else, and then you get back together. So it was a family meetingcation. But I think people more and more wanted to do meetings or vacations. And people did not want to do meetings when it was on their time, which meant the weekend. And so you see a lot of the societies and a lot of the meetings went from 5 days or 6 days to 5 days to 4 days to 3 days to 2 days. The Stanford course, Gary Glazer, may rest in peace, started that course with Jeff Rubin and Brooke Jeffrey. And way back when, and that was one of the highlights of the year. It was always June. It was at the Hyatt Regency in San Francisco. Have 800 to 1,000 people, very, very vibrant meeting. Cutting edge, all the companies would be there, really impressively done. And then within the last few years, they've been 100 people or so. And, so it's not any unique meeting, and it's not the quality of meetings. It'd be one thing if the attendance went down because you ran a poor quality meeting. That's not really the issue. The cost of running a meeting, I could tell you I've run 150, 200 meetings for 37 years at Hopkins. The cost of meeting keeps going up. Not that we're paying the speakers a lot of money, but it's the hotels which charge you $60 for breakfast or $49 plus 30% gratuity and overhead. So you're paying $65 for basically a little more than coffee and donuts and maybe scrambled eggs. And even if you went for the minimum, which is like a donut and coffee, it would still be $40. Now, of course, the hotel would say, we give you the rooms free. We give you a better rate on the registration rooms that people stay in. But still, the cost of running the meetings have gone up. Remember in the old days, all meetings, including our own, had cocktail parties. That was gone 10 years ago because we tried not to raise the tuition. I mean, we started tuition about $500. We're up to about 800, under 800. So in 35 years, that's not a whole big gain. A lot of people charge 11 or 1200 for the same things, but we've always kept it low to try to as low as possible. But your break-even point becomes harder and harder. We had some corporate support that's been very nice, or it would have been possible to get through it because, when you run a meeting, certain things are the same. The brochures cost the same, AV costs the same, the speakers cost the same. The only thing that varies is how many, used to be how many syllabus books you made. Now it's how many sticks do you make, or how many donuts do you buy. So, every person would cost me $250 for food, plus a little bit for the Hopkins charge. But the more people I had, the more money I would make. And so after a certain number, you could make a profit. But on the other hand, if you didn't reach that number, and that break-even number kept going up and up. So it's become more and more a challenge. There is no doubt about it. Now, in saying that, that was the best of times. Our last meeting was February, President's Weekend. So it's only 3 months ago, which seems like 3 lifetimes ago. If you go forward, what's going to happen? I mean, the COVID is really hurting everybody's finances. Many people have been laid off. Many people are getting reduced in pay or benefits and the like. And that's just, reality. But the money for CME is just not going to be there. Now, the good news is there is more and more stuff online. Every society is putting stuff online. CTisus was a trailblazer. We had lectures out 20 years ago. But now you see societies and RSNA and ACR and Rank and Ray are having stuff online. So there's more and more content, which for the most part you can get for free. And so people are not going to have money and they're not going to spend money. So that's indeed a challenge. Now, in fact, we had a meeting in Nashville that would have been very successful. Our numbers were great, but it's in 2 weeks at the end of May in Nashville, and the meeting's just not happening. Like no meeting's happening. And if you ask me, I don't know when the next meeting is going to be. I've had a lot of meetings canceled that I was going to speak at. A few have become virtual meetings. And, I've accepted some meetings into 2021, but to be honest, I don't know, will we even be able to travel in 2021? Short of a vaccine, it's going to be hard to imagine things getting anywhere close to some normalcy. So in saying that with CME, that's what I think is going to be one of the big concerns. I think in the short term, you can't go to the meeting, even if people gave you a free ticket on the airplane and a free hotel and free tuition, you aren't going to a meeting because you're afraid to go to a meeting. Now, if we stretch it out a year or two and no one's gone to a meeting, you could say, oh my God, people will jump up and down to go to your meetings. That's one thought, and maybe that's a very optimistic way of thinking about it. I, on the other hand, are a little bit concerned that once people stop going to meetings and they get used to doing things online, very much the way telemedicine, many big institutions refused to do telemedicine because it wasn't a good experience for people. But now you find out you have no choice but doing telemedicine, or you can't see the patients at all. And I don't think you're going to pull back the curtain after, hopefully, this COVID thing is fixed. I think that some changes are just going to be there, and I think CME is one of them. I don't see RSNA having 60,000 people from 100 countries. I think it's going to be a much smaller meeting, both in terms of representation as well as physical size. I think the companies are going to be much more cautious. I think everybody is going to be looking at the fact that, maybe before they don't want to rock the boat and complain about the cost of things and was it worthwhile. But I think, once you stop doing it, then people say, this didn't make a difference. I survived taking CME online. I survived by taking CME on the back of a journal. I missed the meetings, but whatever, life goes on. And I think when you have something that's always been done and it stops and there is other options, I think people will track to those other options. So at CTisus, we have before the virus, constantly have been generating lots of material and looking at technologies and writing about it, doing things like Facebook Live, where other people are doing it now, and we've been doing it for 5 years. We did vodcasts and podcasts and lectures for 20 years when people have been doing it for a year. So we always have been ahead of the game. So we think that's really the way to do things. And we are constantly looking. We've been putting up a lot of stuff, for example, on COVID-19. So I think there's a danger. It's a balancing act. You don't want to seem that if you're talking about something else that's not COVID related, you're doing the wrong thing. On the flip side is there's more than just COVID we need to learn about. We have been putting a lot of the new COVID stuff up there because just people need to know how to read the scans and how to interpret them and how to report them. So we've been sharing that information with you. And you can see very nicely all the big organizations and journals no longer say you need a subscription to get their material on the COVID. Everything was open source. Everybody put everything on. So that's a very, very positive thing. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think I would like to hear from you that, do you expect to go to meetings again? We need to plan. I'm not planning any meetings right now, to be honest, because no hotel is going to book anyway, and I don't want to book something that I need to cancel. But just the thinking of what we can or can't do. We could do virtual meetings. I could lecture to you, but I do that already, so I don't think you want to pay for what we do for free. And there's a lot of material online from organizations, as I mentioned, that's for free. And so why would you pay for something that has good quality for free? It's interesting. And you can see from the list of people signing in, Romania, John Biacchino is from Body CT, which means Baltimore, Maryland, Boston, Lansing, Michigan, Poland, Estonia. So we have three countries from across the ocean and 3 from inside the United States. But I'm curious what people think about, I think everyone, if you said to me, well, I'd like to go to Orlando and if it's for free, I'll go because there's a meeting. But I mean, how many of you really think things will go back to the way they were? I think there's going to be epic changes in this regard. I just, we're going to, my goal is we did 37 years of meetings in a row. My goal is to do the 38th year. I don't know when that's going to happen. We made it through the Iraq wars. We made it through the 9/11 years. We made it through all sorts of things, but SARS and everything else. But I think COVID-19 presents for all of us very, very special challenges. And I think it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be a slow recovery because right now, as we all know, the fact you've stayed home for 4 or 6 weeks doesn't really mean anything. It's not like you cured the disease. We did a great job in lowering the number of people who were sick, and so the hospitals weren't overwhelmed. You didn't have a New York crisis everywhere. But on the other hand, we haven't defeated the disease. In Maryland, we're opening up. As I mentioned, I can get my hair cut now. Beaches are opening, not that I go to the beach, but you can imagine. And yesterday, for example, there was a lawsuit by people against the governor of Wisconsin, because he shut things down, that was illegal. And you would say, well, that there's no way that case is going to win. And sure enough, the people won, that it was illegal what the governor did. So you can imagine if people misbehave. I think as bad as the COVID numbers were, and we brought things down, but if everyone is just everywhere and there's no social distancing, there's no safety, then I think things will come back with a vengeance. Remember the 1918 flu, it was bad. Then came the summer and people said, oh, flu's gone. Then in the fall and winter, it was a disaster. More people died on the second wave than died in the first. The second and third waves were the worst. So we just need to be very careful. In the short term, I can commit CTisus. We're building the website, tons of content, COVID and non-COVID. We're building the AI sections. We're building all sorts of things that I think will help you on Facebook Live, on Instagram, Facebook in general, Twitter. We're everywhere, every day, trying to do things. Here's Phil Taylor. I would love to go to a live meeting. However, I'm not sure if things will ever be the same unless we're able to control the spread of the virus better. And I think I can't disagree. I think unless we have a vaccine, ain't going back to normal. If you're scared to eat in a restaurant, if you're scared to get on a plane, if you're scared to get in an Uber, if you're scared to get in a cab, if you're scared about the hotel room, if every time someone coughs you jump under your desks, it's not going to work. I mean, I hate to call that a new normal. It's not really a new normal. It's just the way it is. So I agree with Phil that I'm just not sure when things will get better. I think we need to be optimistic. I think one of the things and challenges of something like this is people, you don't travel, you don't see people, working is kind of a little stressful compared to the way it normally is. I think it's hard on people. I think people do feel a little bit lost, and it's difficult, but hopefully we will get through this. My prediction is, probably a year and a half, and hopefully I'm wrong. So that's, these are times you like to be wrong, but I think, we will keep doing what we do, and let us know what we can help with. Let us know what information you want. Let us know what we're not providing. We have updates on all the apps on the Apple Store. We have, a great number of really good apps. So there's a lot of possibilities for you to look at. So with that, I'll say thank you for your time and keep well, and we'll see you back here next week. See you later. Bye.